What's up, guys? My name is Dominic Domo Stanton. I work on House of Whispers for DC Vertigo Comics, and you're listening to Southern Fried Geekery. Holla.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. Collectively, we are SFG, but individually, I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
I'm Craig Lance, but I feel like you set the bar really high by saying this is another exciting episode.
I do what I can.
I'm excited because I'm Sean.
I'm Jerry. Did Craig introduce himself?
He did. You missed it.
God, I really hate this cross thing instead of going clockwise. Anyway, hi, how are you?
Hey, Matt here. Professionalism.
See, I set the bar high.
You joined the wrong podcast.
I set the bar high, but I feel like Jerry just grabbed the bar and just hit us in the shins with it. And just took us to the ground. This is
welcome,
right? This is episode 76 as we trudge on towards hitting those triple digits. We would like to welcome you all and thank you for coming back for another episode. We enjoy doing this. We enjoy doing this for you. We enjoy doing it for us. It's kind of just at least my favorite time of the week to get together with my friends, have a little brunch, a little coffee, a little goodness, and enjoy talking about the comics and the geek culture that we all know and love. Today is one of our news episodes that we tend to do about once a month. Let you guys know what's happening in the great zeitgeist of geek culture that we think is important, that we find interesting, just those little things. On another note, it's also Father's Day, which is kind of rad. So we want to wish all of you out there who are fathers, grandfathers, maybe you're not a biological father. Maybe you chose to be a father. Maybe you're a stepfather. Maybe you're just somebody who decided to be a mentor to a young person, like Craig has been to a lot of us, because he's old. That's just who he is.
Is that what it is? You just take the oldest friend in your group and
I've decided there. Well, look, I've called quite a few men daddy, so... but and
all the mothers too,
and so maybe you're one of the fathers who has to be mother and father. Maybe you're a mother who has to be a father. I mean, really, we appreciate all the people who take time out of their lives to put energy into making ours better, and that's cool, and we appreciate it. And you guys are awesome, and keep being awesome.
Yeah, and one more thing, it's our buddy Castro's birthday today as well.
It is.
So wishing him happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Dude. And he's a father. He gets like a twofer. Maybe
it's a double day for him.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. Nice.
Reading some comics. Well, happy birthday, brother. All right. How's everybody doing this week?
Good.
That was resounding.
Yeah. It's going to answer for everybody. Next.
I'm doing pretty well. Doing pretty well. I know you've had a rough week, so.
Yeah. 2019 can go die.
No, say it like you said it before.
Oh, 2019 can die on a bag of dicks.
Mm-hmm. And dine on them, and then
dine and then die. It can choke. I hope it gets. I don't know. I just all the bad things. I wasn't prepared to wordsmith this morning, so.
We appreciate you being here, nonetheless.
Hey, I appreciate being here. It's pod therapy,
right?
Maybe pod therapy. So just, I mean, I don't mind talking about it. My grandfather passed away yesterday after being in hospice for about a week. He was 80. He lived a good life, long life. He was somebody who I didn't. So when I came out, my family had a hard time with it, and it's somebody that I didn't always see eye to eye with, but he was a great, giant influence on who I am, instilled in me a love of music, taught me how to be a man, whether or not he thought I grew up into the type of man he thought I should be or not. He is still a great, I can't think of a formative element in my life that didn't involve him in some way. So, R.I.P. Pops, we love you and appreciate you. And I've listened to way more country music than I ever cared to in the last week because you loved it.
Hell yeah, man.
But other than that, it's not been a bad week. I had a mishap with the dogs, had to get Annie to a vet. She decided she also needed some attention because she's a bitch. I love my dog kids.
It's in the scientific term,
right? Yeah, it's totally a medical term for dogs. But enough of that. We are going to do what we always do, and we are going to open this thing up by talking about a comic, because you can't be a comics podcast if you don't talk about comics. Although there's quite a few out there that try to do that. I don't know why. They should stop. That's just my personal
They should call
opinion.
themselves something else.
Yeah, they don't. They just, hey, here's all the comics. We love comics. Now here's no comics. That's what they do. But that's their job and not ours. So let them have it. we are going to actually talk about an amazing...
Yeah, we are not the gatekeepers of comic podcasts.
No, we are just the opiners. I'm going to opine. I've reserved today for my negative opinions. And the book we're going to talk about this week is... Well, actually, I'm going to let Matt get into it. I will let him announce it because he's going to actually give us a little brief rundown of it. But I do want to, before we get into that, say that this is a book that came out this past week. You may not have read it yet. And some other things that we're going to talk about are also kind of fresh. So here's your spoiler warning. That's it. If you haven't read this book that Matt's about to tell you about, hit the pause button and come back later.
Well, we're going to tell you the name of it so that you know if you should hit the pause button or not.
Exactly.
It's Event Leviathan. Now you know.
Yeah.
So, Matt, now.
And knowing is half the battle.
Is it?
G.I. Joe. Professionalism. Go, Matt.
I want you. Could you read your synopsis in the voice of Batman, please?
No.
Christian Bale's Batman.
Oh, God. No.
Specifically from the second and third movie.
Right. Ordinary citizen.
Was that Batman or Bane?
Trigger. Ordinary citizen.
I think
Who's
that's
this geriatric gentleman that you were trying to portray?
I think it's Sean Connery as Batman.
Yeah. So, Event Leviathan by DC Comics by Brian Michael Bendis. Script, Alex Maleev. I guess that's how you say that.
That is.
Art and cover, Joshua Reed letters. And then some other folks, editors and whatnot.
Some other folks.
People doing things.
Yeah, some other people with really good jobs.
Somebody did something on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, editing.
Their
bosses.
name escapes me.
This is going great.
Yeah, I know, right? That's right. So, the book opens up with Batman instructing some structural damage. Obviously, something has happened. Some sort of building has collapsed, and it's just the opening page is just him arriving on scene, moving through the wreckage, finding some bodies, and he stumbles upon Lois Lane on scene, who for some reason is pointing a gun at Batman. I found that interesting and confusing.
Yeah.
So Lois Lane's pointing a gun at Batman. They chat a little bit, and then she decides to put the gun away and pull out her cell phone, because why not? This, their conversation is recapping the fact that all the world intelligence organizations have been destroyed in the past week. While they're discussing this, Batman notices that Steve Trevor is among the wreckage. He's unharmed, and he's just been sitting there listening to them talk. And then he goes on to tell them what happened as he saw it when the building collapsed. He was on site to evacuate the building in anticipation of another attack. He and his group anticipated that this was going to be the latest attack to wipe out yet another intelligence organization. And he was speaking to a Dr. Strand, who was refusing to leave. And in the middle of his conversation with Dr. Strand, while he was trying to convince her and her team to evacuate the building, a being appears and creates what appears to be a force field around Steve Trevor, and then the building is destroyed. As he is recapping what happened, essentially the stress of the event gets to him, and he gets agitated and aggressive, and for some reason pulls a gun and shoots at Lois Lane, which I had a real problem with in the series of this story. It's like, oh, okay, that's
Lots of guns.
Well, something he did for some reason. I guess he's really upset.
PTSD is a big thing in DC right now.
I've never really been in the midst of a building collapsing around me, so maybe I would shoot her too. I don't know.
Someone did melt him.
Somebody's got to pay.
This is going great.
Probably wouldn't be Superman's wife. Clearly,
If I were going to pick somebody, it would not be Superman's wife.
Steve Trevor hadn't thought that through. Who he was going to shoot at. Anywho, shoots her. Then he gets zapped by an arrow. You find out Green Arrow has been standing there listening to the conversation. So he immobilizes Steve Trevor with a shock arrow. So then we get Lois Lane, Batman. We're all standing around talking about what's going on, the attack on the intelligent organizations of the world, who may be responsible, the fact that somebody tried to kidnap or did kidnap Clark Kent recently, and Talia al Ghul was among the two. So this
I have back information for that when you're done.
Okay. So Talia al Ghul, this doesn't fit her MO. So Batman is arguing the point that there's something else going on because she's normally, this is not what she does. So he's saying there's something else amiss. In the scene closes with them discussing what they're going to do next, which basically is assemble a team of the best detectives they can find to figure out who is behind these attacks. And the conversation closes. There's somebody has been listening in on the conversation, unbeknownst to these three. I'm not gonna spoil who that person was. Maybe y'all will later, but I mean. So then the scene cuts to this Dr. Strand, who, as we find out, was not killed, but she apparently was teleported somewhere. And somebody is giving her the rundown on why she was saved and that they are a fan of her work, which is a series of investigative reporting writings, I guess you would say. That the overall theme is, wouldn't it be great if we lived in a world without fear? And this being is telling her that with her help, they can make that happen. So this is the opening issue to this event, which is being called a mystery thriller. And it's a 6-issue. And I'm in. I probably would not have picked up this book if Caleb hadn't recommended it, but I'm very glad I did.
Yeah. The art's fantastic in this book, but we'll get back to that in a minute. I wanted to give a little bit of background. Did anybody else read Leviathan Uprising?
Yes.
Okay. So you know the background as to what happened. Talia Al Ghul has been working with Leviathan. Or Leviathan. Do you say it Leviathan?
I think it Leviathan just because it could be.
Because I'm a lazy
Leviathan.
American, so that's how I say it. Anyway, so
I think it's Leviathon.
Leviathon. if he doesn't like it, he can come on the show and fight us.
Yeah. In fact, if he doesn't, he's a coward.
Yes,
it's Leviathon, not
Leviathon.
You got swish and flick, guys.
I appreciate that reference.
Sounds like a different show.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
So, in Leviathan Uprising or Leviathan Rising, whatever it was called, Talia actually sets up Clark and is going to kidnap him. Clark is well aware that he's being set up and allows it to happen and gets kidnapped by her. And she puts kryptonite on him thinking that Superman's going to come save him and the kryptonite would weaken Superman. Of course, we know what happened. And he can't get out because his whole plan was to get in there, figure out what was going on and get out. Well, then Leviathan shows up and tells Talia that this isn't in his plans to let him go, and then apologizes to Clark for them kidnapping him.
Well, and it even goes back a little bit further than that. So if you've been reading Action Comics,
Right.
I got caught up on Action Comics on this kind of the past week. What Bendis has been doing is he's had Amanda Waller working with Lois Lane's father, who is he in Argus? Is that which group he was in? He was in one of these.
Yeah, he was running Argus.
Is that it? Okay, yeah, I knew it. He was in one of these kind of clandestine operations.
Well, and so you have two of the leaders of two of the different
right,
ones, and then Steve Trevor being the third.
And they've all been being kind of attacked, and that's what's happened in the opening of the book. And so, look, Amanda Waller is one of the most terrifying human beings in the DC universe. Out of everyone, she's one of the few people that I would want to run up against. And she got taken out quick.
Well, so Superman and Lois were protecting both Amanda and Lois's father.
Right.
And both of them still got captured.
Exactly.
And we assume taken out by, Lois's dad is actually in the hospital, had a heart attack, stroke type thing, and is in the hospital. So the fact that Leviathan actually has enough power to get in there under Superman's nose and take out two people he was protecting is rather impressive. So.
Yeah. So we know Matt really enjoyed this story. I kind of want to go around the table and just get first initial thoughts. Jerry, what did you think about it, brother?
I love the art in it. The story isn't really gripping me. I'm not a huge first of all, not a huge Batman fan.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
Your reaction.
There is the character in the shadows that they showed that I am interested in. They also have the other titles that we're going to get into later that they announced. One of them is going to spawn from this. So I might stick with it just from that, but The first issue didn't really hook me enough to decide if I wanted to pick up the second issue or not.
Yeah.
So
What you got, Craig?
I think if you've been reading Action Comics leading up to this event, you're probably a little bit more invested in it than if you haven't been.
Right.
But I think that you will be fine even if you haven't been reading Action Comics, because I think they're giving enough background to let you know what's been going on. I thought the art in this book was absolutely amazing. I know there's some color issues, but when I went back and looked through it again this morning prepping for the show, I didn't feel that those same issues were there. I felt that the colors matched what was happening tonally in the book at the time, and I really, really enjoyed what they did with some lighting throughout the book, especially when they're in the rubble and there's lights coming through different ways, and you see Batman's flashlight going off. I do have some issues with the story, not the actual story, but the way it moved. The person hiding in the shadows, Batman was surprised that his radar didn't pick up Steve Trevor, but yet I'm assuming he knew that Green Arrow was there, but the other person he didn't know was there. And presumably, I can't imagine that he wouldn't have called him out, but maybe he would. I don't know. So the shooting, Lois Lane made no sense at all, other than PTSD is a huge thing at DC right now. Apparently that's all we're doing is dealing with PTSD at DC.
Right.
So outside of that, I'm totally in. I've heard some rumors already as to who people think the villain is. I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say it's not Jason Todd. He is not Leviathan.
I don't think so.
So
That's a weird pull.
Sean, what you think about it, brother?
I'm glad y'all gave a little more backstory into it from the Action Comics and the Leviathan Rising, because that was one of my big notes was like, is there anything that set us up? Because I was, like, this is all kind of thrown in. To me, it felt a little jumbled, but with some back knowledge, it helps me look at the book a little bit better. I agree with you about the colors, Craig, but I was like, it's about halfway through the book, I was digging into what they were going with the art. And, you guys are keeping the guy a secret, but I'm going to spoil it because A, he's on the cover.
Yeah.
And B, he's the big reason I was excited to read this book.
Same.
The Question is the guy who was hiding.
I thought it was Rorschach.
Fuck you, Greg. No, but the Question is the man that was hiding in the shadows and didn't interact with him, which really disappointed me, because if I'm going to read a mystery book, I want the fucking Question involved in it from the jump. But that's just personal taste, because Craig said he liked it and Matt's digging it, and Caleb, we'll get to yours in a second, but like, I do trust y'all's opinions on stuff, and I'm going to at least give it a second issue. But while I do like Batman, Jerry, I'm kind of with you, though. It didn't really grab me right off the bat. So I'm going to give it a second issue at least.
I didn't like this book.
Yeah.
And I'm probably like Jerry hit on a lot of the reasons why. I enjoy the story, but I don't enjoy, maybe it's Bendis's dialogue. There were several moments in this book where I feel like Bendis did something and then told us what he did. So it was kind of like reading an old Stan Lee book where maybe Stan and Jack, or Stan and Steve, weren't on the same page. Like Stan felt like he had to dictate every single thing that was being shown on the page. Like, there were several moments when I was like, oh, you didn't actually need to write this. That was right there. And also, it happened like 7 panels ago, so I'm not sure why you brought it back up. The story was great. Like, the panel by panel, like, understanding what's happening is fine. It was more so in the letters that he decided to put on the page, like what he decided to dictate to us as the audience, that I felt like so much of it was redundant. The art, when the art was good, it was good. So much of this book, and I think it's more of the coloring that bothered me. Yeah. The dark pages were way too dark.
Have you went back and re-looked at it?
I have, yeah,
okay,
and
I still felt that way.
So yeah,
I don't, but
it's
a taste.
It's subjective.
thing.
Yeah. No, it's not bad art by any means. I'm not saying that, but it reminded, as I was reading it the first time, and as I went back and I've read it a couple of times since then, reminded me of the last season of Game of Thrones, that one episode, The Dark Knight, where like you couldn't see what was happening.
Right.
And I understand that we're dealing with, like, they're in a darkened building and in a pile of rubble. But, I was reading some other comics this week where some scenes took place at night in a place where there was no light, and they still managed to show so much of what was happening. This just, to me, was not Malev's finest moment. I mean, I like Malev. I've read, Malev and Bendis' Daredevil run. It was great. Some fantastic art in that. And, to kind of piggyback on what Sean said, if this is your event book, you might want to put some background in case people aren't reading Action Comics, they can at least come in with some context. And there was a little bit in that opening paragraph. They set you up to at least, they gave you the baggage to go in, not completely blind, but I felt like they needed a little bit more. I'm going to read the second issue, number one, because it's DC's big event right now. But it's tentatively, like I'm not going to be itching to read issue 2. Bendis is doing better work other places, I feel like. Not that you should judge one comic on what another comic is. I don't know. I had some feelings, and it also could have completely been my mindset for the week. Like, I've kind of had a shitty week. So that could have been what it was. I do think it's weird. They kind of explained why Superman wasn't coming to Lois's rescue, which, like Matt, I had some issues with. He's Superman and somebody just pulled a gun on his lady. But they kind of explain why he wasn't there. What I don't get, and this is somebody like, I'm reading Wonder Woman right now. It's still weird to me to see Steve Trevor do anything without Wonder Woman. And he's his own man, right? He's his own character, and they're not quote unquote together right now. They're doing some separate stuff. It's still odd to me to have Steve Trevor being one of the main focuses of a book without even a mention of Wonder Woman. Like, wouldn't Lois ask about Diana?
But let's see if you turn that around and it was a female there.
Right.
You would be almost offended if she stopped to ask about her X-Man in it. I think it's the...
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'll give you that. Sure. It's still like...
I'm not saying you personally, but it would offend some people.
No, for sure.
So I think it's okay that he is his own... And they've done a pretty good job, not to jump in on your diatribe.
No, you're good.
They've done a good job separating what Steve does from Wonder Woman over the past 5 to 6 years. So
no, they have. I'm again just saying, like, for me, it's still a personal thing. Still like in my brain, I still Steve and Diana. Like, I still in one of the past issues of Wonder Woman, Steve showed up as an apparition. G. Willow Wilson is writing that book right now. He showed up as an apparition to kind of just inject him back into Diana's story to remind you that he's still there. And like, I'd realized at that moment, like, oh, that's what I'm missing in my Wonder Woman story right now. And I got it. Like, thanks. That's what I needed. Now everything, like, continue your story, but just give me a blip. And that's what it was. It's
for sure.
Also, the same thing. Like, we recently, it's been a few months, but we got a really amazing story in Batman to where Lois and Clark and Bruce and Catwoman go on a double date together. Like, we got two issues of that, and for it, whether or not they need to get into the details for Lois not to, because Lois is one of the people, she knows who, she knows that Batman is Bruce. For her not to comment on what's happening in the Bat books, which assumably is current in continuity, I think is a missed opportunity. And that's, to me, in comics in general, I miss when comics acknowledge that they're in a shared universe that is current.
I think Mark Waid's the only person that honestly does that on a consistent basis, to be honest with you. And I agree with you 100% on that. I think that they do it quite often where they have people jump over from other books and they know things are going on and they don't acknowledge those things.
Right. You think there would have been space in this book for that, though?
I mean, a sentence. It would have to be small. You're right, because there's a lot packed into this. I miss that. And a lot of your younger writers are doing that now.
Lois. So Batman. Dumped, huh?
Yes. Sorry she left you standing there.
Welcome to Dumpsville, population review.
But, Kale, you made a great point, though, bringing up the double date issues and stuff that is within continuity. Because, honestly, Lois's line about I'm uncomfortable around you in the suit when, it's just you and me, like, wow, that felt weird to begin with, but I didn't even think about that. Like, yeah, she knows that's Bruce Wayne. She knows him on a personal level, and she's still uncomfortable when he's Batman. It just, that really threw me off from the get-go. That made an even bigger point about it. It's just like, not saying the whole book had weird dialogue, but that was just kind of a weird starting point for me.
I feel like Bendis probably hasn't read all of the stuff going on right now in the Bat world.
I love how DC was like, hey, you know what city we haven't fucked up in a really long time? Let's just fucking destroy Coast City again.
Yeah. But again, overall, I like the story. So that's fun.
Why would Hal not be there? Because he's off doing his own shit.
Like
Grant
literally
Morrison.
the only family he has left lives there.
He's in deep space.
Yeah.
Fighting weird aliens.
Without
really weird aliens.
without a ring.
Yeah, I still stand on I'm planting my flag on the hill that this whole Green Lantern story is actually taking place in Tim Truman's head.
It's quite possible.
Because I love Tim Truman and not Liam Sharp. The art in that book it reminds me so much of Tim Truman.
Are you saying at some point he's going to pop out of the ear of some giant person and we're going to see that scene like we did in Black Hammer?
Yeah, you're gonna realize that all of this is happening while Tim Truman is drawing Grimjack, and that's what I want the most in life. So, well, that's just my initial thoughts. So let's move away from me. Let's talk more about things.
I really love this book. I mean, yeah, it's got some issues, but I think the mystery is there, and that's what's got me hooked, is trying to figure out who it is.
It's the question.
Yeah, the question's in it. It's a mystery story with the question in it. Take my money.
Yeah,
I'm good.
And I agree with you 100%, but he was in the first fucking issue very much, and that kind of threw me off, but I'm going to give it at least a second one to see if he actually gets involved into the mystery.
I feel like he'll be a way bigger focus in the next issue just because, they just sort of showed him in the background of this one.
Because, like I said, he was him on the cover made me feel like a whole lot better about jumping into, because I'm not, all these events keep popping up in multiple companies and stuff, but when we picked this one, all right, we'll check it out. I saw the question on the cover, fuck yeah. I'm a big fan of the question.
Well, and I think that's one of the smart points on Bendis's thing, because he knows. Right. He knows that people are going to have that exact same reaction, like, oh, shit, the question, I'm coming back for issue 2, I got to get more. So I think that was a smart move on his part.
And as far as the precursor stuff to this, nothing has happened to Shade yet, right? Because I know we're going to be getting that story later on with the Agents of Shade.
Yeah.
But at this point in the story, nothing's happened with that organization, right?
I don't believe so, but I could be wrong.
Certainly Trevor didn't know if it had happened.
Right.
And they haven't said anything in any of the other books.
Because whenever they were listing them all off that have been hit or anything, they haven't mentioned that one yet. So I'm kind of interested to see if they actually show that in this series.
I think a fun thing might be to go around and see who's everybody's guess who Leviathan is.
Ooh, sure. You go first. I have to have time to think.
I'm going to go with Rick Grayson.
Oh, fucking
not Dick Grayson, but Rick Grayson. He's not quite been right since he got shot, and he did work for Spiral and has all of that information. Now, how he's going about doing all of it, I don't know, but that's where I'm going with this.
I don't have a whole lot of background into a lot of these intelligence organizations. So Superman's off planet. Lex Luthor's going to go out and play. Is he alive still? I don't even fucking know what he's doing. Yeah. Okay, just got to make sure. I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm just going to go with my first guess and say Jason Todd.
Oh, I think it's Mr. Mixoplexig.
They have not done anything with him in a while. That's a good guess.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. Is that how you pronounce that? I've always struggled with that.
I don't know how you pronounce
not.
I've always said Mixoplex.
See, on the Supergirl show from CW, they say Mixie-Piddlix, which is weird.
He can come on the show and fight us too.
Yeah.
No.
Whoa.
No. He lies to you.
All the supervillains can come on the show and fight us.
Don't call that evil down on us.
Come here, but not on Sundays.
We've got a red suit. I'm acknowledging that I'm 100% wrong on this, and this is more of a joke than a guess or anything, but I think DC is going to carry on their current trend of shitting on Wally. And it's just going to be Wally.
Oh my God.
Nice.
Yeah.
This is him from 3 minutes into the future.
Yeah, it's totally like that glowing thing that surrounded Steve Trevor was actually just the Speed Force again. No, it's not that. I honestly don't know. It could be a number of people. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be one of those situations to where it's not the obvious, and that it's going to be Bendis pulling somebody deep out of
quite possibly.
It's Wolverine, isn't it?
Definitely
It's Wolverine.
We'll just have them shit on another former sidekick and bring Roy Harper back to life, and it'll be him.
What if it is
from the future or whatever?
What if it is Roy?
What if you accidentally called it?
Yeah.
Well, I think what we should do. I'm sorry, Jerry. After every issue,
Yeah.
when we read it, we should all like update our guesses.
Yeah, fair enough.
Go ahead, Jerry. What were you saying? I'm
No,
sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
On kind of a final note, I do because I did poo-poo on the book a little bit. I do like number one. I love that you guys loved it. Like that's at the end of the day, that's the important part.
Well, 2 out of 5.
I'm saying love is a strong word.
I mean, Matt and Craig, they loved it, and to me, when my friends love books, it doesn't matter if I like them or not. I love that you guys love it, and that makes me happy. That brings me joy. I like when you guys are digging what you're reading. Number two, we were talking about one of the weak points of this is the kind of the setup failure, so to speak. That's not the right word, but just the lack of context. I do want to give a big, giant, happy, smiley face sticker thumbs up to a sort of a double page spread. Hey, Wendy, in this book. It was in the beginning of the book when they're talking about all of the different organizations that have been broken down. Maleev did an excellent job at storytelling by giving you, like I said, it's a double page spread, but it's in kind of 4 different columns where they give you like the broken Argus sign. They give you the Task Force X sign. They give you just a little bit of everything, as far as, all of these things. These clandestine organizations have been broken down to nothing. And I think that was a brilliant bit of storytelling.
Well, and one thing we didn't talk about was the fact that this was a brand new Argus building that no one even knew it was an Argus building except for a handful of people. It had not even been christened yet. So it had to be somebody deep within the intelligence community to know that.
I mean, it's just funny that it was this like fucking huge, like abnormal looking building in the middle of Coast City.
Yeah, and they were all talking about, oh, no one knew this was happening.
Yeah.
Well, they said it was a scientific building.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, it's like, this is just an ordinary building, everyone. Don't look over here.
I mean, it is the DC universe. They've seen weirder shit.
Now, it could be Helena Bertinelli since she was in Spiral and she was helping run Spiral.
Could be, yeah.
Could be a good way to bring
So I
her
actually
back.
have a question. We know we have Question. We know we have Batman. We know we have Green Arrow. Other detective characters that are in the DCEU, who else do you think is going to be joining?
Barry.
Yeah.
I mean,
Detective Champ is in Justice League Dark, so it's quite possible he may be over there.
Is Elongated Man still around?
I think so.
They haven't used him in quite a while, though. He
Right.
was
But
last
he's a
time they
detective.
used him was in that Secret Six book or whatever, where
Oh God, yeah.
where they brought him back and he
New
was acting.
52.
Yeah, he was acting as he was somebody else, but turned out he was Ralph Dibny, still dealing with the PTSD of his wife dying.
Yeah.
So it
Might be a deep pull for another detective, though.
Yeah. Maybe Batgirl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just bring the whole Bat family.
The
in.
Oracle. She could do her Oracle thing.
I wish she'd go back to being Oracle.
I do
Quit,
too.
quit wishing crippledness on her.
No, not that. I mean, even as Batgirl to be Oracle as well.
Yeah.
Right.
To kind of take that role. But hey, that's a topic for another conversation.
It is. So I guess ratings, I'm going to give this 1 out of 2 thumbs up. It's their big event book. I'm never going to tell you not to go read an event book because lots of things are going to spill out of this. Read it, buy it. Maybe issue 2 will give me some different feels.
I'd say 1.5 thumbs.
Like to the first knuckle.
I'll take your word on that.
Jerry?
Yeah, like I said, the story just didn't do it for me, but that's because of, my obvious choices.
Prejudice and get Batman.
Yeah. I will pick up this second issue just in hopes that we get some more questions answered and question in it, and hopefully some eventual Agents of Shade.
I give it 4 out of 5.
Nice. Is that on your erection meter?
Well, the 3/4 erect.
I gotcha.
Man, I was hoping you.
We're not. No.
Why did we bring that back up?
I had feedback from people that want me to keep that rating system. So,
And I enjoy talking about erections. So
Definitely give it 1 thumb up out of 2. Like I said, good art. Not really an interesting setup issue, but I'm willing to give it a second one.
very, very cool. Well, go check out the book. You know where you can come talk to us about this book? Anybody got any guesses of where anybody who's listening to this can come talk to us?
Facebook.
Yeah, you can swing by our Facebook group and you can let us know what you think. We always love to hear your opinions. You can also come check us out on our Instagram page and our Twitter page because we have the same handle for both because we're good like that. We excel at convenience. We are at SFG Podcast on both of those. So swing by and check those out. All right, so we read some other comics this week because that's just kind of what we do. We love reading comics, and not all the comics we talk about make it onto the show, which is fine. Some of them we like better than others. Some of them we think are more important. Some of them we just don't want to talk about, but we enjoy them. So one of the things that we started to do on the last episode is we are introducing our short stack. That's what we're calling, because Southern Fried Geekery, we got to have it be food related. Also, I'm fat and like pancakes, so short stacks.
It's our shtick.
It's our shtick with an extra CH in there. I think we should let Craig, because Craig reminded me that we're doing this because I'm totally prepared. We should let Craig lead us off and tell us what's on his short stack, and we'll kind of go around the table from there.
All right. So first thing I read this week was The Boys Volume 1. Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson. And
yes.
I am tentpole erect on that one.
Hey, yes. You'll be cutting diamonds by the time you're done with that series.
Yeah, okay. Good. Hammer nails through wood. Yeah.
Denting car doors, man. Nobody will be safe.
Some of Garth Ennis's most sadistic writing. I love it.
So outside of that, I have a feeling a couple of my other ones are going to be ones that are shared with people. But my second book was Gogor from Image. Ken Garrick is doing that book. If you're not reading this, you probably should be. Matt, I think it would be a good book that you would like. You can borrow my first couple issues if you want to. I'm probably 3/4 on that one. Not quite Flagstaff, but flagpole. But Immortal Hulk, number 19. Al Ewing and Joe Bennett. Oh, what a book that was this week. I mean, Nightmare Fuel, as I think you put it. Matt put it earlier in the week. So much going on in that book and so much to decompress out of that book. But Outer Darkness, number 7. John Layman and Afu Chan. That book, they fought a fucking house in space with demons and they saved a nun from 1940 something. And it's insane.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I'm fully erect on that one as well. And then, Walking Dead, number 192, Kirkman and Adler. Major thing happened in that book, and I was pretty flaccid on that book. Now I'm about halfway erect, so if things keep happening, maybe I'll get back to fully erect on that
Walking
book.
Dead's been doing some squat.
That's my 5 books.
Jerry's look of utter disgust.
This is a thing that's not going away.
Wow. You should consult a doctor. Sean, what's your short stack for the week, brother?
Well, first, one of the books I read was Promised Neverland, chapter number 137. I'm not going to use the penis scale on a book about little kids. But this series is kind of, I'm kind of cooling on this one. I'm going to give it a middle of the road. Like, this newest arc isn't quite the, what it has been building up to be. Yeah. No, Craig. After that, I read The Last Sayuki, chapter 14, another very good book you should go check out on the Viz and Shonen App Jumps, or Shonen Jump apps, backwards. After that was Dr. Stone, chapter 108, continuing the great mystery of the people being petrified. Now they've recently discovered that someone can petrify at will. I was really turned up on that.
Mike Delvecchio, guy on our Facebook page, was really, really enjoying that series too.
It's so good. And the anime is starting next month for those who want to watch it animated. After that, I'm going to group these all into one because it was basically me catching up on a book. That's Immortal Hulk 15 through 19. Man of my word, I went out and bought those damn books, and fuck, it is so good.
Told you.
Oh, I know.
Hashtag told you so.
I'm sorry I doubted y'all. And finally, gifted from Craig last week, actually, is American Vampire trade paperback volume 6. That was fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
I've slept on this series. It was really damn good.
I also haven't read it, and I hear good things.
And because Craig gave it to me, I'm going to give it the most veiniest of erectional throbbing for that book.
You said American Vampire?
Yes. It's so good.
Yeah.
This one had like one short story, not short, but like probably like a couple issues worth, and then it had an anthology of small stories, which was really fun.
The way they handle the whole vampire thing in that series is fantastic.
All right, so my short stack for the week, I didn't get as much read this week as I want to, so I've only read about 4 books out of the new comics for the week. But I did get to visit a lot of books that came out, some collected editions. I'm kind of doing a summer comics reading binge, so to speak, to help knock out my quote-unquote to-read pile. So I read the first 17 or 18 issues. It's the first volume of Matt Wagner's Mage series, which is impeccable. I've been hearing amazing things about this forever, and it's It's incredibly good. The only complaint I have is that this reprint doesn't really show you the amazing airbrushing that was done on that book. But it's the Hero Discovered Volume 1. I also have read most of, I'm going to finish it today. Brubaker, Fraction, and Aha's The Immortal Iron Fist from Marvel.
So good.
I don't have a lot of baggage with Iron Fist, but this is incredible. I absolutely love everything about what I'm reading. I read, I think, the first 18 issues of Jeff Lemire and Miko Suyan's Bloodshot Reborn from Valiant. Again, it's another Valiant's a publisher I don't have a lot of experience with, but it's Jeff Lemire, and Bloodshot is a pretty incredible character. He's got a film about to come out starring Mr. Vin Diesel, the world's greatest closeted actor. And I thought y'all would get that. So I wanted to kind of catch up on it. And my buddy David A. Price from the 11 O'Clock Comics podcast sent me a little care package a while back with all of those. And it was great to get to read that. I read Robert Venditti and Will Conrad's Hawkman 13 because I wanted to see how Hawkman was going to continue without Brian Hitch. And Will Conrad sits right into those grooves. It's a great successor to the art that he was doing. And then last, but not least, it's not a comic. With the events of my week, I spent some time reading some poetry, which is just kind of something I do. I know that's emo as shit, but I was also an English major, so bear with me. My favorite poem of all time is Dylan Thomas's Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night. So I spent some quiet moments just reading that and reflecting on it with my grandpa's. At the time, he was going to pass, and of course, his inevitable passing. That poem gives me a lot of comfort. It's very deep. It's a poem that you can break down into a number of things, and that's what good poetry does. It's what good art does. So depending on what mood you're in, there's a lot you can bring to the table with that poem. So if you haven't listened to it, hell, I might even tag it on to the end of this episode just for shits and giggles.
Nice.
But it's my favorite poem. So that's my short stack.
So mine, like Craig, read Outer Darkness. This book's great. Deep space. It's a crew of a bunch of unlikable people.
It's kind of like us.
A lot of a lot of violence, demons,
And they talk about erections too.
All
the time.
Yeah,
They actually do.
Yeah, Image Comics number 7. So definitely check out again John Layman. Check him out. It's the best thing he's done in a while. I read The Punisher number 12. I'm one of the very few people reading The Punisher right now, I think. Punisher, Rosenberg, I'd say he's writing about 80%, according to what I want out of a Punisher story. It's street level, Punisher, Frank. This issue was okay. Wasn't bad. It was okay. But he did commit a sin that I really have a problem with, and he had the Punisher wear a headband. The Punisher in a headband. That's one thing about Jim Lee I'll never let go. Fucking Druid Punisher with a headband every time.
I mean, he started out with white go-go boots.
It's his, quit bringing up old business, Caleb.
Hey, but
you got Frank Castle wearing a fucking 80s aerobics outfit.
You're not the only one reading it. You're one of 27,517 people reading it.
Sweet.
Ooh, foreshadowing.
Yeah, we're a force. So, jump on the Punisher if you got, if you want.
If you like headbands.
Yeah, there's some really, the series, there's been some great issues with some great layouts. And then there's been some that have not.
You're really selling it for
super
me.
hot. It's a roller coaster, peak and valley Punisher story.
What I like about the short stack, though, they don't have to be winners.
Yeah. Also, Red Sonja, Birth of the She-Devil, because I just couldn't turn away from that title. I'm like, crap. I can't not buy this. So that's written by Luke Lieberman, pencils by Sergio Davila. This is a Dynamite book. This is a pretty, I would guess you would call this a pretty by-the-book Red Sonja story. It's not bad. It's nothing. They're not,
It's another origin.
Not turning over any new rocks, I guess I would say. But it's, I mean, it wasn't bad at all. So I'm going to buy the second issue, see where it goes. I also read The Age of Conan, Belit, by Teenie Howard and Kate Nimazik.
Yep.
Whatever. And Scott Hanna. Yeah, close enough. This one's good. This was my favorite issue of the series so far. She's really becoming the Pirate of the Black Coast in this one. The Queen of the Black Coast, I should say.
Nice.
This has been a journey series. Like, this is the story of her becoming the Queen of the Black Coast. And this is the first issue I really felt like, okay, now she's really stepping into that. And then I bought the True Believers Amazing Spider-Man #1 reprint. I always buy the True Believers stuff.
For $1. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, I haven't read this story, the #1 Amazing Spider-Man story, in a long time. Of course, it's by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. So there's a lot in there I forgot. 2 things that stood out to me that were really funny. One, Spider-Man takes down the chameleon and calls him a commie. So that was pretty great. Yeah. And then the second thing is, of course, Spider-Man's still trying to figure out how to monetize being Spider-Man because he's broke. Aunt May needs help. So he's still trying to figure out how to get paid. So he goes on TV and performs some stunts. And then the TV producer says, well, who do I make the check out to? And he's like, make it out to Spider-Man. And then Spider-Man tries to cash a check at the bank made out to Spider-Man. And it's a really funny instance of how, he's still a kid. He does not know how the world works. Right. And then, of course, he does the famous tryout for the Fantastic Four thing by attacking them. And he thinks that's a good idea.
Yeah. That's how I always get my job. So just beat up my employer.
Yeah. That's
a good issue.
So it's definitely worth $1 to revisit that.
Nice. Well, Jerry, brother, regale us.
Before that, I want to share this text with Stephanie that I just had.
Okay.
Stephanie, how's the podcast? Me. Well, we got Craig's erect rating scale over with, so it can only go up from here. Stephanie, or down. Me.
Womp, womp, womp.
Facepalm, facepalm, facepalm emoji. Her, don't break up with me. So my books, my 5 books that I had this week. The first one, you guys have heard me rave about this book since it started coming out. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, by Tom Taylor. Ken Lashley started this issue.
Really?
So it apparently is going to be on it for like the next run or so. And it was a really great issue. The series has proven to me over and over again that this is not about super heroics or anything like that, fighting bad guys. It is about, Spider-Man Peter Parker, the human being, the great person that he is and how he affects people of New York City.
Being a friendly neighbor.
Yeah. It's been fantastic. I also, because of Sean's recommendation, read Sonata this week. I'm not going to go into that too much because I feel like someone's going to talk about it next week.
Maybe.
But it is by David Hine, Brian Haberlin, Jared Van Dykes, and Francis Takanaga. Cullen Bunn's short run for Venom for War of the Realms ended this week. He had Alberto Albuquerque and Roberto Poggi on it. It was really well done. I mean, Cullen Bunn has done all of the little short events that have happened in Venom. He finished off the run that Remender started that was really good. And I feel like he got a good little 3-issue, 4-issue run. The art was really great on it. So the 4th book that I have on my list, I know Caleb read. I don't know if Sean might have read it at this point. Silver Surfer Black.
Yes.
Donny Cates, Tradd Moore, Dave Stewart.
Yeah, I figured one of y'all would bring it up. So
yeah, so it's actually coming from after the first issue of Guardians of the Galaxy when everybody got launched into a black hole. It kind of shows that he was sort of like detrimental in saving everybody from this black hole. Detrimental. What are the words?
Detrimental is a bad thing.
Oh, okay.
Instrumental.
Thank you. That's the one I was looking for.
He was detrimental in saving them.
Yeah, sorry.
He did a poor job.
He was instrumental in saving everybody. So in the annual, we actually saw what happened to a few of the other people. And in this one, we saw how he saved the main crew that we have now, and then where Silver Surfer ended up. Tradd Moore, I've never read anything with his art in it, so it's taken me a little bit of getting used to. I enjoy it. I really like how he depicted Beta Ray Bill, so that kind of wanted me to, for him to do something with that at some point. I actually, now that I think about it, I think he did something that had Cosmic Ghost Rider in it at one point. Maybe it was like a Thanos annual or something. I think.
I'd have to go back and check maybe.
But yeah, we have Dave Stewart on colors, which he's been doing Venom. But it was a great issue. It kind of did what the Guardian stuff did and tied into more of his Marvel stuff that Donny Cates is doing, so recommended. The last thing I have is actually not a comic. It's a Korean series. They're called Manhwa. So it's kind of like manga in the same vein, but it's called Tower of God, and it's by Lee Jong-hyo, who his pen name is Sue. The series is really great. It's been going on since 2010. 400 plus chapters. It's really unique how they do manhwa. So instead of it reading right to left, it reads left to right like American comics, but it doesn't have pages. They write one long like strip. So you basically just scroll down as you're reading it. It's really cool to see how his techniques and everything have changed over the years.
Yeah.
I was actually caught up on it, way back, I think in 2012 or 13. Somebody on Facebook had been posting about it, so I decided to jump back on it. They have an app called Webtoons. That's where they print it and everything. If I could give this person money for this, I totally would. But the Webtoons app is like his legal place that he posts it so people around the world could read it. So it's just been a really, really great series, and it's a really unique world that they build for it. But those were my 5 for this week.
Very cool. Well, let's move on to some news. Those are good books, good recommendations all around. All right, so first thing on the news that we decided to do, we kind of want to talk about some sales numbers. And it's a good week to start it because little background into what we're going to talk about. Rob Liefeld stuck his foot in his mouth on Twitter this week, as he is wont to do. But he actually made some really good points. I just think he made them in the wrong way. So he was talking about how his prediction that DC Comics is going to crash and burn because all they have is Batman. It's the only thing that's doing any work for them. And of course he's wrong. They're not going to crash and burn. They're not anywhere close to crashing and burning. They're fine. Mainly because they do have Batman, but he's correct in he's correct in his statement that without Batman they would be in trouble. So let's go down the list, and these are the numbers for May 2019. So I'm going to start at 20 and work up. So we got Justice League selling 55,000 copies. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at number 19, selling 60,000 copies, 60,415. Detective Comics 1004, selling 63,161. War of the Realms New Agents of Atlas, which I really enjoy this book, at number 17, selling 64,990. Detective Comics number 1003, double shipping, selling 65,709. Venom, which is a Jerry book, is number 15, selling 66,858. War of the Realms at 14, selling 73,026 copies. Immortal Hulk, which is all of our books because they love us, number 13, selling 75,983. Heroes in Crisis, number 9, selling 77,582. War of the Realms number 3 at number 11, selling 77,664. The Amazing Spider-Man at number 10, issue 22, selling 78,102. And now as we are starting to break into the top 10, you're going to see a name repeated repetitiously. Repetitiously. That's a good job at words.
To the detrimental of us all.
Detrimental to the repetition.
So number 9 is Batman. Number 71, selling 82,704. Number 8 is Batman. Number 70, selling 83,518. Number 7 is Immortal Hulk. Number 17, selling 87,444. Number 6 is Amazing Spider-Man. Number 21, selling 92,538. Number 5 is The Batman Who Laughs. Number 5, selling 108,677 copies. Number 4, Savage Avengers number 1, selling 111,736. Number 3, Batman Last Night on Earth, selling 113,287. Number 2, Doomsday Clock, which has Batman in it, selling, it's number 10, selling 117,419. And the number 1 selling book for May of 2019 is another book that doesn't necessarily have Batman. He's in it. It's not necessarily a Batman book, but he's certainly on almost all of the covers, is Deceased, number 1, selling 242,365, to which I also attribute some Art Germ covers for selling those. So, Craig, tell us how many Batman books.
There are 9 books out of those 20 that have Batman in them.
Yes.
What do you think of that, Jerry?
What? Batman's popular? Holy shit.
Right.
So, by my advanced math, that's what, 47% of the 20, 45%, something like that. It's a ridiculous amount. Even if you take the the 3 event books out of it, it's still 30% of the books are Batman-centric books. So,
yeah. And this is where I disagree. It was weird. So with the whole Rob Liefeld thing, look, I mean, was he wrong? Yes. Was he kind of doing that douchey thing that Rob Liefeld is want to do and kind of famous for? Sure. Was he really stupid in saying that Jim Lee should quit being the number one at DC and going back to drawing X-Men for Marvel? Yeah, that was a dumb thing to say. Was he wrong in that without Batman that DC would be in trouble? No, he was right. I think the evidence shows. And I'm not somebody who I'm not a shill for Rob Liefeld. I don't like the guy's art. I'm sure he's a great person. I know people who know him personally. I have nothing against the guy. I never was a fan of what he was doing. And so in saying that, I'm justifying, I guess, I kind of agree with him that without Batman, that DC would be in trouble. But here's the thing. DC has Batman. They're not in trouble.
I mean, the reality is that without Spider-Man, Marvel would probably be in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, Marvel probably has a few extras, they have X-Men and things like that, but, everybody's going to ride the coattails of their biggest franchises. That's just what you do. I mean, Disney without Mickey Mouse would probably have been in trouble back in the day. It's what you do. It's what franchises are built upon their characters. And when you're talking this sort of franchise, of course, they're built upon their characters. And the more popular that character is, the more it's going to sell. I mean, is that a problem that it's selling?
No.
I mean, I don't understand his complaint.
If Image didn't have Savage Dragon, they would probably be in.
Yeah, 100% keeping the entire company afloat. LaField's just pissed because it's not Youngblood.
Liefeld's not wrong, but he's also not right.
And that's where I stand on it.
He's not wrong, but he's not right.
Yeah. Well, he's wrong for being an asshole.
Well, there. Yeah.
I mean, regardless, he's just being an asshole because he's
just
still
taking a
pissed
shot
at DC.
at one of the. He's taking a shot at one of the big two.
Why?
Well, and so here's it's one of those situations to where I'm just like, of all the people I want introspective commentary about the state of the comic book industry, it's not Rob Liefeld. It's no offense to the guy. Is he smart? Sure.
Because he made a shit ton of money doing comics?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Did he benefit from writing a really great wave created by arguably Jim Lee, Silvestri, Todd McFarlane? Yeah, sure, he benefited from that, and that's why he has the name he does. I haven't, if you look back in the history of what he did at Image and the monies that the fortune that he has made and lost and made again, I don't think he actually understands the business side of comics nearly as much as he thinks he does. And so that's why I don't understand why he feels the need to remind us that he has some really hot takes and shitty opinions, that are proven wrong. I mean, if you look at the top 10 of May, 6, look, I'm a Marvel boy. Okay. I love Marvel. It hurts me to say that I have actual pain in my heart saying this. DC has more books in the top 10 than Marvel does. I didn't count down. I can go through and count down to the top 20 real quick, but they have.
We
6.
know that there's 9 Batman books, so we know that in the top 20 you're probably.
Yeah, they have 6 books in the top 10. One of their books sold 242,365 issues. And it's not necessarily a Batman book. It's deceased. And, Tom Taylor is a great writer. And sure, some of that is probably, like I said, because of art germ covers and the variants, and it's a number 1. And
how many of those did you buy, Craig?
I only have one. Actually, I have one of the deceased books. Two, one of each issue.
It's, and is it a gimmick? Yeah, sure. But it sells numbers, and that's all DC cares about. That's all Marvel cares about. That's all anybody cares about is units. Now, and yeah, these are the numbers that were sold to comic shops. So out of those, how many are still sitting in comic shops? I don't know. And I don't particularly care, even though I work at a comic shop. Because when we're looking at this, and we're looking at the state of the comic industry and how much money they're making, individual shops are responsible for selling their own product. DC is selling their product to the shops. And at 6 of the top 10, and at 242,000 some odd copies, DC's marketing the way they should. Are they oversaturating Batman? Yeah, sure, fuck, why not? But hey, that's their golden boy, right? So sure, ride it. And it's been that way for 80 years. Why they'd be dumb not to. It's a smart marketing campaign. So.
You know what's funny, or one thing that stands out to me, if you talk to most I'm going to say fanboys, but fans, they're going to tell you that Harley Quinn is overused, and they're going to tell you that Deadpool's overused.
Yeah.
Neither one of those have a book in the top 20.
No.
Right.
So I think that argument doesn't hold quite as much weight as people seem to think that it does.
I enjoy kind of changing the not changing the subject, kind of branching away a little bit. I enjoy looking at these lists to kind of see as far as what's selling. Was there anything on these that really, really surprised you guys?
I'm surprised that Justice League's still doing as well as it is. And actually, I didn't count those 2 books when I was doing my count. So we're actually at over 50% with Batman in them.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's still doing as well as it is, but it's a Justice League book. So maybe just on the title alone. Because I actually dropped off of that book a little while ago. It just wasn't doing it for me. But that was, to me, the big surprise in the top 20.
I was really surprised that Daredevil is like it's 57 and 59.
Same.
I would like to see what its sales were before this run, though, to compare it. Because I would almost guarantee that by word of mouth alone, it's probably selling more than it was during the last Charles Soule run.
And just to beat a dead horse, as I look down the list, number 61. Guess whose number 61 is?
Batman?
No, it's Major X, the Rob Liefeld book. Only selling 31,477 copies. It was number 3. So shut up.
I think some of these guys that left during the Image era, they're still kind of got an axe to grind against the big 2. And I don't know. I don't understand that.
Well, he specifically got fired from his Hawk and Dove series and went on. Back when he got fired, he went on an extreme DC rampage and he attacked Scott Snyder specifically for no reason. I mean, it was all over his Batman's the only reason you people have business argument that he did back then. Yeah. It was pretty bad.
Okay, so any other? I just don't get that. Like, dude, you're so much more likable when you don't speak. Was there anything else that you guys found kind of surprising in the lists?
No, that was it for me. Was the Justice League. I mean, I think it is interesting that there's that many DC versus Marvel books in the top 20.
It is surprising with the kind of release failure that Doomsday Clock has, that it still has as big a pull.
Yeah, no, good.
I think there's a lot of people still buying it to read it when it's completed.
Yeah.
So they have the full run.
Well, all right. I think the natural successor to the conversation about how DC does or does not rely on Batman is to talk about the thing that we've all been itching to talk about for about 2 weeks, and we've mentioned a little bit on the show, but it's the Batman controversy, so to speak, the fiasco, the upheaval in the Batman world. I'm using a lot of big words. It's not necessarily. It ended up being not necessarily as big of a thing, or at least we haven't seen it. We haven't seen the complete ramifications of it that I think are going to come out. But for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, or who don't know what I'm talking about, Tom King was surprisingly and a little bit unceremoniously kicked off Batman. He had been planning a 100-issue run, so when you look at people who are writing Batman, his run would have lasted to issue 105. They are cutting it short. He is actually going to be running it at issue. He's going to be ending at issue 85, and then he's going to go on to be writing a Batman and Catwoman book to kind of finish out a story. Now, this was a controversy because number one, Tom King, again, like it's Batman, and he has been Tom King. A lot of people, you either love him or you hate him. He's kind of a polarizing figure. I don't know anybody who just says, yeah, Tom King, he writes things. I hear people either like, oh no, he's like the greatest or he's the worst. Which is,
and sometimes he's both.
Yeah. But he didn't know this was coming. And that's what really shocked a lot of people, is that DC kind of just decided this and didn't tell him until they did a press release, which is kind of shitty. It's kind of, I mean, obviously, when you work for a company like DC or Marvel, you work at their behest. You're under their good graces as to whether what you do, you're under contract. But still, to have somebody who is selling your flagship book and who has got
selling 85,000 copies next month,
and who has
170 because of double ships.
Well, yeah, and up to issue 70. Like, this is not a new number one, and you're still pulling numbers. That's kind of a big deal in today's market. To kick him off the book after you've announced and you've propagated the idea that he's going to have a full 100 issues. The manner that they went about doing it was really shitty. Now, there's been some obviously the rumor mill, this, that, and the other. There's been a lot of talk of, it's because of his Nightmare arc, the numbers really dropped on it, and that because Batman's their golden boy, he scared the suits and ties, and so they kicked him off. There's been some talk about he just notoriously, and this is it is a thing that's true, he does not get along with his editors because he says no, he's going to make his stories, and he pretty much will tell editorial to go fuck if they decide they want to interject, which they did with Batman 50, and that was a big deal. And there's been some rumors that some other, and I don't know names, but there's been some rumors that another kind of head honcho, another big name creator, threw Tom under the bus. Which, if we could find out who that was, it'd be great. Because fuck them, you don't do that to your coworkers. And so that's the rumor mill that spun out of this. And so it's just interesting.
Have you seen what the latest that he has said about this?
No.
You know what his next project is?
No.
Oh, shit. His next project, he's working on a New Gods movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking comics project. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now, he says that he couldn't have handled this and Batman at the same time. Now, I've been a big Tom King fan for a long time, but it really feels like his heart has not been in Batman for a while.
Well, since 50.
Right. It really feels like he's, for what he can do, doesn't seem like his heart is in it, just based on what I've read so much from him in the past. So yeah, I'm a big Tom King fan, but I'll be glad to see a different writer on the book.
Yeah, and it's kind of like that thing of after someone comes on and they start a series, you're gonna have your high points and your low points.
Yeah, for sure.
And then eventually it just kind of like levels out and it's just okay. And I don't know, sometimes it's just better whenever they just, get off of a book and let somebody else take over creatively. Same thing happened with Jeff Johns and Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Like, and granted, like some of his issue was because of the New 52 stuff. But I mean, we got to that point where he was like in writing like the New 52 stuff and it just was not good anymore. Mm-hmm. It was just time.
So I think when you take something like Batman and you're going to write a story and you come out and announce at the beginning that your story is 100 issues long, that is pretty ballsy. And we all know Tom King's a pretty ballsy guy. But
yeah.
That is something, it's very ambitious to take that on and say, I'm going to take Batman and I'm going to do a 100-issue story arc with many story arcs within it. Because what we're finding out is that through this whole chain of events, this whole story, there's an underlying thing. Mm-hmm. Now, could he drop off at any point and it's fine? They just go on with a new writer writing it and you kind of drop those other threads? Yeah, that'd be fine. But we are going to get the end of his story. It's just going to be in a different book.
Right.
And I think that that's a very, very ambitious thing to do in today's day and age. It just doesn't happen that often where you have somebody that's going to write 100 issues of one character.
For sure.
And
most titles don't get 100 issues.
Right.
Most titles don't get 50 issues.
Right. And so when you're talking about Batman, which is their flagship, even more so than Detective Comics or what, mm-hmm. Batman is the flagship for DC, as we've seen with the numbers. To tie up that one character for 100 issues in one story, that's, I can see why DC's kind of going, okay, we thought you had a 100-issue plan, but we didn't know it was one big story, right. I think is what's going on there. And honestly, is was stated, the last 25 issues have been not bad, but they haven't been as good as the first 50.
Yeah, they haven't had that magic. And again, I'm not upset that that a new writer is going to come on, that he's going to be writing a different title.
It's the way they handled it.
It's just I think the way they handled it is super shitty.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of character for DC Comics,
right? and that's my only thing is
right.
Look like you don't do that, and in the long run, it's probably going to cost them their exclusivity contract with him because, like you said, he's going on to work in Hollywood. Because of the success of Mr. Miracle, him and Ava DuChovny?
Yep. DuVernay.
Yeah. They're doing New Guy, and she was she did. What was the last movie that she did?
I forget.
I know that she was in charge of doing the Central Park 5 show on, I think, Netflix. And she also she did that movie. It was produced by Oprah. I forget at the top of my head. It was kind of a magical film.
The Wrinkle in Time.
Wrinkle in Time, yes. She did that, and so she's a fantastic creator, and that's like. Tom's also got other projects that he's working on in Hollywood. You know, you see him talk about quote unquote secret project all the time. What scares me is that look, I love Tom's comics, and what terrifies me as a reader, as a fan, is that he can make more money doing Hollywood movie stuff, and we're going to quit getting his sequentials.
I think he's gonna go to doing 12-issue maxi series, which I think is what he's really, really good at anyways.
Yeah, and I'm completely good at that.
Yeah. As long as we're still getting Tom King comics, that's all I care about. I just don't want to lose them to Hollywood.
Same.
Because quite honestly, had Batman been a 50-issue story arc and ended with the wedding, and that's where he dropped, I mean, what a shithole place to jump off at. It would have been viewed as one of the best Batman runs ever, and now it's kind of went where it peaked at in 11, and now it's down just kind of cruising at I'll say a 6 because it's not below that, but it still isn't what he set the bar so high. He's having a hard time reaching that again.
I mean, y'all definitely nailed it on the head as far as I think regardless of that it has dropped down, I still think, especially the early on, War Jokes and Riddles is still going to be considered one of the seminal Batman stories, and you can't take that away. But yeah, writer fatigue, creator fatigue is definitely a thing, and I think that's what we're getting, as well as I'm sure issues with editorial and publication.
Yeah, for sure. I am excited about the Bat and the Cat book because of some news that came out this week. Did you guys see who the main villain is?
No. Is it Bane?
No.
Oh.
No. Did you guys not?
I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen it.
What is your favorite Batman animated movie?
Oh, that's right. I do know this.
I didn't know that was going to be the
Oh,
main
yeah, I
one.
did see that. Yeah, Phantasm.
Yeah. So Tom actually released on his Twitter this cover. And at the same time, DC released it as well on some retailer forums, and it's got Phantasm on there. Who, like I said, my favorite, one of the best to me animated movies. Also, one of my favorite Batman stories. Period. But then, so they announced it, and then DC realized that they let something slip too soon, and so they took it off, and they were like, "LOL, JK, this was just a thing. We're not really doing that. That's not the final cover." And then Tom on his Twitter was like, "No, fuck them, it is." So this is my story. Like Tom's just done playing nice, I guess, and I love that. That's the whole
Good.
I mean, he's only got 20 issues left to
right.
complete a story. So you're talking about 3 story arcs. I mean, it's not really in the big scheme of things.
Yeah.
He's starting to wind it down anyway, so.
Yeah, no, I'm just excited about Phantasm, man.
Yeah,
I don't know,
for sure.
Has Phantasm, and this is my a little bit of a inexperience with some of the reading. Has she ever shown up in comics before this?
No, I sure don't think so.
I do not ever remember her in a comic.
No.
I'm not saying that she hasn't been, but I don't remember.
It must have been really obscure.
At best, it would have been the animated Batman, the comics that were based on the TV show.
Right, that was
maybe
Batman
those
Adventures.
technically, maybe that, but I'm not even sure about that.
I'm excited.
No,
I'm
that's
excited to
great.
get this in comics. And if you're speculating on comics, which you shouldn't be doing because you screw up the market, but if you are, you want this book. It's going to be
good.
for sure.
It'd be a good book to buy.
So, we're going to keep riding the DC train. Come on, ride the train. Anyway, so their other big news of the week was Legion of Superheroes is coming back. We're getting a Legion book, and it's going to be written by Brian Bendis, who apparently just writes all the things these days. He is just a writing, I wonder, part of me wonders if he's not getting spread too thin.
That's what he does.
Already. It is kind of his MO.
I'm wondering if he's going to be on Batman.
He did write the Batman story for those Walmart exclusives, so he's...
That's interesting to me because he has said in the past that he does not find Batman interesting. He has said that several times in the past.
When he worked at
Marvel. Yeah, he said, that character's boring to me, yada, 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 so...
now's the perfect time to put your money where your mouth is and make him interesting as a writer.
Well, it's also their number 1 selling book, so it makes sense that their highest paid exclusive writer would be writing their number 1 book. So, anyways, talking about
Legion
of
superheroes.
Yeah, so I mean that's just so we're getting that book. I don't know. I haven't seen where they've announced who's going to be the full-time artist on that book. I mean, they're talking around, like in the article that Newsarama posted, they run down a list. I mean, they mention artists like Jim Lee style stuff and Jim Chung. I would love to see Jim Chung on it. I would hate to see Jim Lee on it because you'll get like 4 issues every 2 years. And that's no fun for anybody. But so I'm not personally a huge Legion fan. I've actually never read it. It's a comic book blind spot for me. But for fans of Superboy, for fans of OMAC, we've got some friends on our Facebook page that are just really, really into this. They loved that series. They're super excited. And look, again, I think this is part of me growing up and being a Marvel boy. I missed out on how much of a part of the heart of DC that Legion was. And I'm saying this based on the commentary of people like Bill Zanowitz, who, if we have a DC guru, he's kind of the SFG's pod grandfather, so to speak. When he talks about something being the heart of something, that means a lot. And so I'm tentatively excited. Maybe this is a chance for me to my foot in the door for some Legion stories. Maybe I should go back and read. I know they sell the omnibus or the omnibuy. So maybe I need to jump in there and get this.
Did I catch that right? That you said that you didn't know if they announced the artist?
Yes. Yeah.
Ryan Sook.
Oh, Ryan. Okay.
Is drawing the ongoing. Yeah.
Very cool. I just missed that.
And one thing also they mentioned, and like I said, I'm kind of with you. I don't know anything about Legion. I never read them, but the article also mentioned that with this book, they're kind of merging all the future stories, like how Legion takes place in the 31st century.
Yes.
So I guess there's other characters also, I guess, from that distant future. And I think they're going to try to bring them all into like one big book, which is interesting. For sure.
Historically, that's where characters like Power Girl come from. And like there's
Brainiac's
this really,
grandson.
Yeah. Right. There's this really, iconic
or whatever descendant.
Historical scene where you've
1,000 years.
You've got three of the Legion members, like who are deciding whether or not Superboy,
that's an iconic cover.
Gets to be a member of. Is it Superboy or Superman in this? Superboy. Yeah. Whether or not he gets to be a member of the Legion. So I mean, it's the future of DC, and they just popped back up in Doomsday Clock. You had that Legion ring floating, so we kind of knew it was coming. Anyway, it's big doings, is all I'm saying.
It's one of those things that it's just outside my wheelhouse. I understand the significance of it and why people are excited, but it's one of those things that I care more about current continuity than what's going to happen 1,100 years in the future in DC. But that doesn't mean that it's not a big thing for some people. Yeah. And I like Booster Gold, so seeing, I may pick it up just to get a Booster Gold book.
I really like, my more kind of obscure-esque characters.
Really?
And surprise.
He doesn't like the main character.
So they've got that, the prelude to it, the Millennium series that's going to run, and they've announced OMAC in it. And he's a character that I've always kind of been interested in. So I look forward to it for at least, learning new things about him and hoping that they write a good story with him.
Hope so. Have y'all ever read the actual DC Millennium weekly series that came out? I think it was the late 80s.
No.
I think I checked out a couple of them. Were they one shots?
No, it was a 12 issue. I mean, they did have one shots attached, but it was Joe Staten doing the art. And as far as events go, I think I'm the only person who will say this in the world. It's just me and on my little hill, but it's my favorite DC event that they've ever done. I don't know why. I love Joe Staten's art. I think his cartooning is great.
Joe Staten's he's a legend that doesn't get enough recognition in today's time, in my opinion.
No, I've
met the guy a couple of times. Super nice guy. I've got a couple of pieces of his art hanging on my wall. He's a great artist, but
it's fun. You should go back if you get a chance. You can find them in dollar bins all day long. Yeah. They're like, it's nobody, like I said, I'm the only person I think that likes this. Craig, a while back, an episode or two ago, we were talking about some stuff that happened in DC with one of your favorite characters, Wally, that you weren't happy with.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you and I guessed that we thought might be happening is that Wally might be getting his own book. Guess what?
It's almost like we're prophets.
We're goddamn Nostradamus.
Yeah. Nostradamus.
Because he is, in fact, getting
Well, I didn't say it in iambic pentameter, so.
Well, that's true. Maybe you should say it in haiku.
I'm not very good at making shit up on the go, so you got a
great haiku.
Best haiku ever.
We'll have to count that. I'm not sure. So Wally West is coming back in September, kind of piggybacking off of what happened in the much talked about, very controversial Heroes in Crisis ending. Like I said, I think a lot of people were worried about this, and I saw some opining that, great, we're going to do this terrible thing to Wally, then shove him back. I kind of thought, no, this is a great way to move him to the forefront and to get people like talking about something major that happened to him, and that's what's going to happen. So
major where they turned him into a bad guy.
They didn't though. Anyway, but not everybody's excited about this book. I think because of the creative team that they announced, which I personally don't. I don't get all of I get some of the animosity, but I don't get all of it. It's going to be written by Scott Lobdell and drawn by Brett Booth, who are going to start that story in a thing called Flash Forward, which is going to be a 6-issue limited series that starts in September.
How original.
Yeah, right.
So, my problem is not the creative team per se, but my problem is that it's not Tom King unpacking the Wally West mess that he made.
For sure, yeah.
So that's really my issue with it. And, maybe Wally will get some redemption, but I really think they're going to continue down this path that he's on and explore where that takes his character arc, which is fine. It really is. They're doing something new with the character, so it's hard to argue that. You could go back and write the same stories told new ways all you want, but at least maybe they're giving him something new. I just wish it wasn't Wally West that they did it to.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
There's another Flash that they could have done it to. And
I just, I'm again, tended like DC's not my forte. I know for a lot of people, yourself included, Wally was your Flash. I am looking forward to reading more stuff with him in it, because he's a cool character, and now he's very humanized. Some of the people, a lot of people don't like Scott Lobdell, and art's speculative, so. People are free to like Scott. I don't understand it per se. I've enjoyed up until this recent arc. I have enjoyed his. Craig is ready.
No, I'm good.
Like him if you want. I don't understand why. I like the way you said that.
He's never going to be on my this is the best writer of the year. But I'm consistently
human of the world.
I am consistently entertained by what he does though. Like I said, up until recently, his Red Hood arc was fun stuff. I don't like this new artist, but I was looking at Preview's catalog, and they're getting a new artist on it, so that might be a jumping back on point for me. And every jumping on point's a jumping on point for others. I think he's a solid writer. Again,
I don't really have a problem with conceptually who's on the creative team. It's the fact that I really was hoping that Tom King would unpack it, but it's fine. I'm going to read it. I'm going to buy it and read it and see what they do with Wally. And, again, like I said, you can keep telling the same stories, or you can explore new avenues with characters. And I'm excited that they're at least exploring a new avenue. And hopefully at the end of this, we get a heroic Wally West back that can be at the forefront of the DC teams.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping. So,
and kill people without regret.
Well, at least if he kills people, don't go into the future and kill more people to cover up the killing that he did on accident. That would be okay with me.
Blue Jay was a goddamn gem, Craig. He's a national treasure.
All right, so comics aren't the only thing we're going to talk about. I'm skipping over something just for time-wise, because I think, I don't know that anybody else but me is interested in it. Ultron's getting a series. I love Ultron. There you go.
Machine Man is going to be in it.
True.
Skynet is here. We know
the human meat bags.
But over on the TV side of things, TV and film, there was a shit ton of cancellations in this past month. both Happy and Deadly Class got the axe, which I know a lot of people were enjoying both of those series, but apparently not enough that they felt that they needed to go on with it.
Well, it's sci-fi. If it's not, piranhacondas, they don't care.
Okay, listen, Magicians is amazing, and I fucking love that series.
Roger enjoys that series.
Yes, so good.
So far, the only hopeful news we have right now is that Netflix is considering maybe picking up Happy because the first season is on there and it's doing really well. So I'm hoping for maybe Netflix at least pick up Happy. Really sad about Deadly Class. So I was really liking that show.
Yeah, and they actually absolutely nailed it. If it just sucks because there's very few people that read Image as it is. Right. So then there's very few people that read Deadly Class, which is amazing, and the show has been a phenomenal cut of that. Right. It's been fantastic.
And then there's a fun Swamp Thing.
And then there's the fun Swamp Thing story. Swamp Thing got canceled because the North Carolina legislature don't have their shit together and are assholes. And this could be an opportunity.
Can they come make it in South Arkansas or something?
No, because also Arkansas's film commissioner is a dick and needs to go away.
What about Louisiana?
Louisiana would be the best choice to move. A lot of people have considered that. Georgia is also an option, but a lot of people are not going to Georgia right now because of certain laws that they are passing.
Yeah.
Because they really want the world to be a Handmaid's Tale down there.
So my understanding was that they were supposed to get a $40 million tax credit.
They were.
And then they canceled the $40 million tax credit on a show that only had an $80 million budget.
They didn't cancel it. Yeah. So the North Carolina legislature, which is ran by a certain sect of, I would call it a Republican sect. We'll call it Tea Party is who they are. They contractually obligated themselves to a $40,000 tax cut.
$40 million.
$40 million, yes. And then just decided no, they weren't going to do it. Nope, sorry, you get 14.
Yeah. It was some weird stuff with them throwing that number out there.
Yeah.
And then realizing, oh wait, that's not as much as we can do after they had already started filming and everything.
Yeah.
So then the Swamp Thing people were like, well, this show just became way too expensive to make.
Yeah.
You know what they should do? Which would be ironic as hell.
Not elect Tea Party.
Well, besides that, is sell weed.
Yeah.
To pay for and use the tax money to pay for Swamp Thing.
Produced by the Green.
Produced by the Green. Excellent.
That is how they should fund Swamp Thing.
With the devil's lettuce? They can't do that.
How do you think Swamp Thing was created?
Right. Lots of weed involved in that creation.
Experimental.
I just, I would say not to get too sad about this because it was successful on the app. And I don't think that we've seen the last of Swamp Thing. I think they just got to find a new place to film.
Right.
And they've got to look at that. And
it's not like everybody's going to be like, oh, this is a different swamp.
Well,
that crocodile was not there last season.
And it was kind of a thing that you could almost see coming because a month or two ago they announced. Before the show aired, they were like, "Oh, we have to cut our season short." Yeah. So you already knew something was going on with that, right? And I mean, they're still releasing episodes once a week. I think we're on 3 at this point. And I mean, Doom Patrol is so good. So I was so excited for this, and
did Doom Patrol get canceled?
No, but I'm saying you've got the same
Yeah, the same money behind it. Why don't they use some of that Batman money to pay for this?
Right. But I really hope it gets picked back up.
I do as well. On the, I think it's Netflix. It may not.
Oh man, now you're gonna tell me that Jessica Jones got canceled too,
Jerry. I will throw this goddamn laptop at you. But that did release season 3, the final season. The last thing that you will get of new content on Netflix from Marvel, because Laws is out, and I haven't watched it yet, but I want to.
Because Laws is out.
All right, real quick, Dune. We got our first look at Dune. I know our very own Mr. Matt is excited about this.
Oh God, Dune, kids. Frank Herbert's Dune.
What did you think about the first look at it?
I'm stoked about this. So what was actually announced this week is what they're calling Dune: The Sisterhood. So this is going to be released after the movie. Movie comes out next year. The pilot's going to be directed by the director of the movie, Denis Villeneuve. Sure. So his other work was Blade Runner 2049. After I watched Blade Runner 2049, was like, holy shit,
That
this dude's
movie's
going to make
beautiful.
a killer. This guy's going to make an amazing looking Dune movie. He also made the first movie I ever watched that he did was Sicario, 2015 Sicario, which is his cinematography is amazing. So, but anyway, so this is going to be based on the Bene Gesserit sisterhood and
the witches, right?
That's what they're called,
Yeah.
but that's not what they are. Labels.
Watch yourself, Caleb. Watch
Labels. So they're a sister. They're a powerful sect of women in the Dune universe. So yeah, some people call them witches.
Well, aren't they called that in the series?
Yeah, by the
Okay.
bigots.
Okay. Look, Mike's
Caleb's true nature is coming out right now about Dune, obviously. Bigotry of
So
Dune.
sorry, Caleb. Some women got together.
I respect witches. I know a few. I like them. Don't curse me.
So what that? So real,
He's like, please don't curse me
Yeah.
if you're listening to our show.
real quick, the reason the Bene Gesserit are unreal or awesome. They're a sisterhood of women that they use the spice melange. In this Dune universe, spice melange is the most valuable element in that world. It's basically the oil of its time.
One might say that he who controls the spice controls the universe.
Yes.
And that it
one
must
might.
flow.
Or she, Caleb.
I said one. I said one.
Do they mine it in the mines of Kessel?
What's that?
Do they mine it from the mines of Kessel?
No. Craig. So, freaking George Lucas ripping off Frank Herbert. Anywho, so they use the spice melange to pass knowledge down from person to person. So over the centuries, they've amassed each Bene Gesserit member has amassed a vast amount of knowledge, and they've also been able to evolve this ability to control their own biology, so they can control the sex of the child while it's in gestation. They can also do things like neutralize poisons within their own body. They have peak martial arts abilities, so they're extremely deadly. It's an extremely deadly and calculating group of women. What they do is the Bene Gesserit are only loyal to themselves, but they ingratiate themselves to the most powerful houses in the universe. So they can do two things. One, manipulate those houses into their grand design. And they'll ingratiate themselves into a house with the idea of doing something that will result in what they want, say, up to 100 years later. That's how far out they plan their agendas. And they're also having children within these great houses so they can collect a certain kind of DNA strand. They're collecting all these different genes from all these different powerful people with the idea that they'll be able to ultimately produce a specific kind of superior human being.
You know, until you broke it down like that, I have never realized how much of the Bene Gesserits are surrounded by eugenics. Like I've never actually put. I mean, I get it, but until you just put it that way, I've never really struck a chord on how much of a theme that was. Which I'm not the Dune. It's not beloved to me in the way that's beloved to you.
God damn it!
I enjoy it.
He feels the same about Star Wars, and I usually respond the same way.
So this has the potential to be an incredible story to tell. So I'm really interested to see where it goes. The thing about the work, Dune has been called the unadaptable series because it's so dense. This is a very dense read.
I tried to listen to it on Audible, and it was way too dense to try and listen to while I was working.
Actually, I read the first book twice to really get it. Frank Herbert, this is an amazing piece of literature that he did. It is this guy was operating on a different level. So the movie itself, I'm really looking forward to. I'm a careful optimist about this one.
All right.
Our very own Matt, the careful optimist. Sean,
Sir.
tell me about a video game you're excited about, brother, because I know zero things about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so as some of y'all know, following video game news, E3 has come and gone with a lot of major announcements, and the one I'm most excited about is a video game most people have probably never even fucking heard of. It's called Phantasy Star Online Part 2. Now, Phantasy Star got its start on the Sega Master System as a turn-based RPG. It's kind of like the Genesis version of Final Fantasy. But when Dreamcast came out, they turned it into an action RPG with a time-based combo system that's kind of like a Diablo loot system as well. And they remade it to the GameCube, and we haven't gotten anything since. This game has been in Japan for a while on PC, Switch, and PlayStation 4. But during E3, Microsoft announced that it's coming to the West for the first time. And for them, it was a big announcement because it's the first time it'll be on Xbox. So not only is that big that's coming to the West, it's on Xbox, a system I don't have. So I was like a little worried, but they just recently announced it'll be available on all systems. So it's going to be a free-to-play action RPG with some microtransactions, they said, purely for aid in getting through your game. It's not a PvP-based game, so it's just, hey, you want a little extra gold, pay some real money, I'm guessing. But it's an amazingly fun series. I know I got Jerry briefly into it as our interests go flip-flopping, but I still play this game every now and again. I still crack up to open the GameCube and still pop it in, so I'm very excited about this. It'll come out spring of next year, and I'm not going to be playing a damn thing else as soon as I do get my hands on it.
Yeah, it was actually like the start of us playing video games together. You brought because I mean, I mentioned that I had a GameCube back in the day, and I used to play it all the time.
Right.
But I don't know that I ever really played with anybody until you brought it over, and then we connected 4 controllers to that system and played some old school split screen co-op.
Yeah, and it's just that, like I said, it's that. It doesn't play like Diablo, but it's got that Diablo loot.
The same
like,
engine.
You keep, like I said, but it is that endlessly going through dungeons and getting better and better loot with a I forgot to mention, sci-fi twist.
Okay.
So you're rocking lightsabers and stuff in those games, and it's like you play as robots or human or even else.
Laser scythes.
Yeah. Laser sword-like weapons. Craig.
I'm just sitting here.
Speaking of video games that you can play with laser swords. Much to Craig's eyeballing me like he's going to commit murder. There's another game that came. We got some look at some gameplay, and that's Star Wars: The Fallen Order. Now, Craig, as our resident Star Wars fan, what are your feelings about this?
I think it's pretty dope. I do have a concern for it that it's going to be too much cutscenes and not enough gameplay, but I'm hoping that that's just not the case. And I want some open world in it. I want to be able to run around and do stuff that's not just from mission to mission. So I'm hoping there's a little bit of that in there at least. But, it is what it is. I've already bought it. I'm excited about it. And I think, as Sean says, when it comes out, that's what I'll be playing for a little while. So.
Nice.
We'll have to put the mic in the living room so Craig can do the podcast while he plays the game.
Maybe.
Very cool. Well, this has been a good news little thing. We've talked about a lot of shit. You guys ready to kind of lay out the menu for next week?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Let's do it. All right. Sean, start us off, buddy. What are you reading next week, dude?
Next week, I'm reading the start of the new Usagi Yojimbo. This now being published by IDW, written and drawn by Stan Sakai, with, for the first time in his actual stories, colors are going to be done by Tom Luth of Gru the Wanderer, which, if anyone knows about Stan Sakai, he's been friends with the Gru creator for a long time. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to get a brand new Usagi story as well as a full color one from now on.
Very cool. I will go next just because I guess I'm right here. I am really excited.
We're all right here.
Well,
he's not wrong.
These are facts. these are facts. Hurry up, move. Ouch. Just kidding, brother. I love
Ouch.
You. I love you. I'm excited about the Warlord.
Wounded.
I'm excited about the Warlord of Mars Attacks #1. This comes out from Dynamite Comics. It's being written by Jeff Parker. It's being drawn by Dean Coates. It's one of those really cool things that Dynamite does where they take two properties and kind of mash them together. These don't always work out for the best. Let's be very honest. Dynamite is very hit or miss for me. But I am a huge fan of Mars Attacks. And I'm also a really big fan of John Carter, Warlord of Mars. That's one of my favorite not Robert E. Howard. Fuck me. I just went Conan. All things should be written by Robert E. Howard. It is one of my...
Even Dune.
My brain just shut off. That one guy who created Tarzan. He also...
Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Yes, thank you. Edgar Rice Burroughs, who also, it's my favorite Edgar Rice Burroughs character. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with these two things. To me, it's a natural mashup. And I like Jeff Parker, so it should be a fun book. Matt, besides besides Robert E. Howard written Dune? What do you want to look forward to next week?
Got a sneeze button on there you can hit when you say those things. So I'm looking forward to The Savage Sword of Conan next week. Meredith Fitch is writing, art by Luke Ross. I'm stoked about this. See what they're going to do with the character.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was going to keep going, so I'm glad it is.
Is this number 6?
Number 6.
Number 6. Nice. Jerry.
I am also reading a number 6. To no one's surprise, Guardians of the Galaxy number 6. Yeah, it's going to be this huge face-off between Guardians of the Galaxy, bad Guardians of the Galaxy, Black Order, and fucking Thanos is getting resurrected. What more could I ask for except a full 32-page issue of Beta Ray Bill and Lockjaw team up?
You could ask for that.
Yeah.
You could. That is the more
That's
you
true.
could ask for.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Are you asking for that?
Well, I have a restraining order against Donny Cates, so I probably should not ask for it anymore.
Wait, does he have one against you, or you have it against him?
Yes.
Craig, round us out, brother. What's on the menu for next week?
Skyward number 14, Image Comics. The Battle of Chicago is upon us, as it is all starting to come to a head, and this is a book that I think I talked about maybe the end of the first story arc, but this book's just been absolutely amazing, and they're getting to, like I said, it's all coming to a head, as we have a war that's going to take place in Chicago to try and save the world.
Which realm is winning?
Well, the gravity's going to be either turned back on or not.
It's a hell of a switch to flip. Well, all right, guys. Are we ready to kind of bring this thing home?
Yes, sir.
We done for the day. All right. Well, we really hope you've enjoyed hanging out with us, so to speak, and listening to this episode. We enjoyed doing it. I love these news episodes, especially now that we're going to run down like numbers. To me, that's a lot of fun. If you want more of this, you know where to find us. We're on the Facebooks all the time. Sorry. Oh, you're good. Craig just had to run away and sneeze a little bit. But we're on the Facebooks all the time. We're always there. Come post. Come tell us what you're reading. Come talk about all the things that you're interested in. We really appreciate the interaction that you guys give us. You can come see a lot of stuff that we're reading and posting on our Facebook and Twitter pages. It is Pride Month, so if you are a member of that community or an ally, thank you. Be proud of who you are. Keep doing what you're doing. Other than that, we got anything else? Did I miss anything? How we doing? Good? Okay. Go for it. Love some comments. Woo!